Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee, what's happening?
Nothing much. We're getting a bit of feedback from last week's episode of the Dublin Marathon. That was one of our most popular episodes ever. So there's definitely a lot of people in the running for that. And talking to a couple of people throughout the week, a lot of people are trying to get into it. So the transfer portal is up in a moment. And for my own reasons, I was kind of looking at, might be my year and all the rest. And I was like, so what's put me off transfer portal is if I was to transfer my ticket to you, let's say you haven't got a ticket. One, you got to pay 30 quid to put your name in. And I don't know the ins and outs of that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe it does cost money to do that. And I know it's not a for-profit marathon. But the other, and I do think the other, it'd be nice for you to run with it. However, selfishly, I'm probably wrong to admit, if I was giving you my ticket and I couldn't run this year, despite all the previous years I've run, I wouldn't get preferential treatment for running the marathon. I wouldn't have that 48-hour text or 1 week text after the marathon to go again. I'm straight to the back of the queue and back into the lottery trying to do the Dublin Marathon again. And I'm like, that would put me off handing off my ticket as someone who wants to do it every year and someone that's like, oh, I'm injured. I know I can't do it this year. So, like, for example, like last year you had 15,000 do out of 25,000. So this is an issue. I wouldn't give away my ticket this year. Like, I'd be like, you're running under me, but I want to run it again without having to go through the lottery. I'm not sure where to get it. And I know that's incredibly selfish, but I don't know if that's right or wrong, or should we send this the podcast the first time before talking about it? I don't know what I do there.
Let me just get angry, Eric.
No, I don't mean to get. No, it's just curious. I'd be just interested in the thought process of, okay, like running for me personally is not going good or at all right now. I'm kind of like, ooh, would I do myself justice going for a 3:30 marathon? Would I do a marathon just for the sake of doing a marathon? What way would I approach it? Would I just walk the thing? Like, so you have to do the event, not complete it, just do the event to avail of getting that preferential slot for next year. So do you give it to someone else just to run the event on behalf? Because there's a huge demand for this. Of course, there wouldn't be a lottery otherwise. Or you do the right thing. And like, for example, and here's the flip side to it. If I just gave it to someone, they obviously have my details of if something went wrong. I know you have your name in the back of the thing of your ticket anyway. If something went wrong and all of a sudden you're contacting relatives and everything else, and they just went off a number without checking the back of that, they're contacting random people that have nothing to do with that person having an accident. So it is a huge health and safety thing. So in that respect, you should transfer. But selfishly, I'm like, there's no incentive to transfer because now I can't. It'd be very hard for me to do it again next year.
Well, there's a few things for this for me, Seán. One, there's the transfer of ticket element.
Right.
Like the transfer of ticket is there now with 15 weeks, 14 weeks to go to the marathon. Like, okay, you may be wondering, am I going for my best PB? But you still know if you get through injury free at the end of the summer, you'll still be able to participate in a marathon. But there are some people starting a marathon program now. The Fingal 10K only happened, this weekend.
Yeah.
So how do you know you're going to want to transfer your ticket? You might pick up your injury 3 weeks before and then you're stuck with the ticket. You don't show up, the 25,000 becomes the 15,000. That is computer software. If you can change your name on a flight with Ryanair to travel into a different country in a couple of clicks with €100 fee, surely you can replace a name against a number on a barcode for a race within 48 hours of the event. Before registration. Well, this might be my next business. I might develop a software. Now that actually maybe cancel this episode, Seán.
We got something. Never mind.
But let's invent a race where you can swap names for free. So that is one element. I think that's a lot of BS, if I'm going to be honest, why you can't change names of registration. There's not even insurances because most races, even triathlon, you have to have a 1-day race license. So I'm not too certain there. I'm sure there's probably something in the T's and C's that we haven't read, but to me, it just sounds like a bit of BS, to be honest, because at the end of the day, as you said, someone could run a Seán Coffey. They're not necessarily Seán Coffey. There's no vetting process at the start line. It's just you have a number and it has green, so you walk with these other 5,000 people. So that's one issue I have with it. I don't agree with the change of name being so early. And that leads to a lot of people who start training now in the hopes they will find somebody who is injured to run under their name. And that's another bad thing. Like, people who are running under someone else's name are not getting the credit they deserve. So that's the second issue. People want to do themselves proud, because I know myself, I ran under a different name to get a marathon in, and I ran my best marathon ever, but Eric Lawless never did it. And that is something that is an issue as well. So I do think there has to be more done in change the name process. It has to be streamlined. It is only a name versus barcode versus number. It's not that complex. It's already paid for. And that's where, like, I don't understand. When you sell out your marathon, you have the money, you pay your suppliers, you get your sponsors, you have all this. It's all covered. Everything is paid for. You've charged your ticket price. So there's no problem in swapping the ticket. And you can still, as you've correctly pointed out, charge an administrative fee of €30. I don't know who is doing €30 worth of work to swap this around, but I'm also calling BS on that. This is why the business is going to go further. But but it's definitely, it's disheartening. It's disheartening that you do 5 marathons in Dublin and then you get injured for one. And if you want to do the right thing and give your ticket to someone so someone else can share in it, because there's 1,000 people waiting to take a ticket, you're not going to. You're going to selfishly keep it, and you might show up to the start line and jog to the river and get on the Lewis and show up at the finish line.
Carl Lewis.
yeah. And there you go. You've even a DNF gets you into next year. And that's wrong. That is wrong. And you're not wrong for doing it, because why would you want to enter into a lottery system of what has become the highlight of your year? So I can totally understand that. I think they need to start looking at a loyalty program. That Seán Coffey has completed 4 Dublin marathons. That has to be worth more than someone who has just picked up the last minute ticket. So it should be a lottery in stages. Then it should, those who did it, completed it last year and have completed it for several others, to get the initial allocation. It's very easy. You could sit down for an hour with a few people around the table, you'd probably solve it if you gave everyone alcohol and said, that's a great ticketing system. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Football clubs do it around the world. It's so hard to get a ticket for Liverpool, but they have ways of, you have to have gone to so many home games. Maybe you might have to sign up to the Dublin Race Series. There's another marketing ploy for Dublin Marathon to throw out there. This is going to be a great business, Seán. Cancel this episode.
There is one thing on this one, actually, just to point that out there, and so people don't think it's a just a bitching session. There is another way of getting preferential early entry to the 2024 Dublin Marathon. And I didn't know this until I was looking up the Facebook here. And it's literally, if you go to buy this ticket, it won't say it. But literally, I saw one comment from Irish Life Dublin Marathon, and it's that all female participants in the 2023 half marathon, that's the one you're doing on your birthday, will receive the same preferential early entry as the 2023 marathon entrance for 2024. I don't know, had you heard that before? But that's news to me. But I had seen that this week, and I was like, oh, that's cool. There's another entry there. But then someone who did it, I know this is going to come across as just bitchiness on my part. Someone that's done 3, 4, I think I've done 4 in-person ones. I think 4 in-person ones now, as well as a couple of virtual. You're right back to the back of the line if you can't do one this year. And to your point, like you said, do the right thing and transfer to someone else to have their name on it and their recognition, because your fastest marathon, you can't search that because that's not under your name. And I think that is wrong. But if someone is like, here, I want to get something positive out of this. If you're a female looking to do the 2024 marathon, do the 2023 half in September and build towards that. And you can get that possible early entry as someone who did a 23 full marathon this year as well.
Yeah. I agree and I disagree with that. I agree that it's promoting women in sport, and I agree that it's important to give people a realistic goal. And unfortunately, a lot of the ladies put themselves into that glass ceiling, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able. So it's nice to give them a taste of the half marathon and then dangle the carrot for the marathon next year. So I do agree with that. It's just difficult when it's already such a sought after event to already have given away a lot of the allocations for the likes of this. So again, it's one of those, all have to sit around the table. And again, look, the numbers might not necessarily be huge on that. We're talking maybe 500 ladies might take that offer up, if even. And that's really
more
good
power
to
to
promote the sport. But, you know, like it's not astronomical. We're not talking about the 10,000 tickets that aren't given away. So
yeah,
I think if you're a lady and you're unsure, this is phenomenal.
Brilliant news.
This is brilliant news. And it's fantastic to promote the ability of women and give them the carrot to go, I've done the half. Next year, this is the plan. But that's I'd say a 500, 600 ticket element.
Doesn't solve the problem that only 60% of people that signed up for the marathon actually attempted the marathon in 2022. And that's a huge issue for something that's gone into a lottery system. It went into a lottery system because demand was greater than 20,000, yet only 15,000 did in 2022. That's the maths and the issue on that one. But we won't moan and complain anymore because we've got an episode of the podcast to give you. So right after the intro music, let's go.
We did complain a little bit, didn't we?
We did. That's the most. In fairness, though, in 3.5 years, I don't think we've ever had a good bitching session for the intro of the Any Given Runday podcast. So we've hit a new high, new low on that one. Probably new low to listeners screaming at us. But in more positive news, how is your training going?
Training is going better.
Better, good. Last time you were strong with your swimming. Let's start with the swimming, I suppose. How's swimming's going?
I conquered a fairly big fear. We were on, I don't know if you remember, about a week ago, it was really windy. Really, really windy.
That seems to be every day for the last two weeks. You could have been talking about this past weekend now.
But there was last weekend, I think it was last Friday night, probably 10 days ago now or something. But it was very windy. And we went to the lake. I've never seen waves on a lake. And now people are going to laugh at me. They weren't waves. I wouldn't be scared if I was in a kayak like they were ripples. But as me going swimming, I might as well have been surfing in the World Championships. They were that big. But to a point when I was swimming in one direction, I'd take a breath and a wave would slap me in the face. So it was the closest I got to a little bit very uncomfortable, thinking I was going to die in the water. And it was just, there was wind, there was noise, and there was a strong headwind to swim against. Felt like I was going absolutely nowhere because I wasn't going anywhere. But what that meant was on the Saturday morning when I got into, or a Sunday morning, I think it was, when I got into a calmer lake, I had no fear and managed to swim a lap on my own, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a 1K lap that takes you a good chunk into the lake. You're a good bit away from help as such. And Lorcan wasn't waiting at every buoy. I said it to him this time. I was like, no, this is a me versus the lap day. So in terms of progression, in terms of confidence in the water, because look, in Portugal, I'm hoping there's going to be wet. It is the sea. I expect all that. I'll be more buoyant. But not only that, it's blue water. When you put your head in the water, you're going to see things. Whereas in the lake, you put your head in, it's total blackness. And then eventually you'll get a wreath just coming across your face and stuff.
That was scared of the life out of me.
I always assume it to be a sea monster. But it's I'm getting better at that and getting more confident. So a lot of the pool work is important for me now. I think I have to work on the skills and drills in the pool more so. So although the lake swimming is good, I like doing it because Lorcan is with me for a start. But even today, I have a swim to do today, and I won't be going to the lake. I'm going to go to the pool here locally and just get the paddles, get the pull buoy, working on technique, because technique is what's going to give me the next little push. It's going to take off those couple of seconds for me. But if anyone is struggling with the swimming element, I know a lot of people kind of share my sentiments of it, of the scariness of the water, but definitely time spent in the pool is important, and it's something I've increasing. And even my coach has added in 4 to 5 pool sessions because he realizes if we don't get out of the water, we haven't got a good day out at all. But apart from that, cycling is coming along really well. Yesterday we I'll make it to Mullingar one of these mornings, but at Loan to Mullingar Greenway. So I did 82 kilometers in just under it was 2 hours 45. So I'm getting, that was it with my heart rate less than 140 beats per minute and staying in my FTP zone too. So to me, that's a 3 hour 90-ish thereabouts. And so I'm starting to be realistic of what's an expectation of myself on the big day. So you know, if I'm looking at I want to say a 6-hour cycle on the day of the Ironman. Based on that, you know, based off, I have another 13 weeks of training. I'm still working on building it up. I would, because again, it's nice to set easy goals, but I want a challenge and a 6-hour cycle. You know, some people are probably like 6 hours, that's not great, but to me, 30 kilometer an hour average is pretty good.
I would agree.
Yeah, and we averaged, I think the average was 29.1 or something. We had a stonking headwind on the way back, so, but we also had that on the way out, so it balanced the book. So I'm nearly there. I'm nearly at that point of where I can just get to that and then push beyond that, so that feels comfortable. So yeah, some morning I'll make it to Mullingar and back. But yeah, the cycling is improving. Zwift has been phenomenal because I take the coaching session that's been given to me. I put in the zones that's expected of me, and I've put the turbo in front of the TV rather than just sitting in the back room on my own. And I've started watching, and this is something I picked up from Lorcan. I started watching I watched the documentary, Seán. It was on the world record attempt for the sub 8-hour Ironman and the sub 7-hour Ironman.
Oh wow! What was on?
It's on YouTube. So
I was thinking that.
Yeah. So I just go on and type in triathlon motivation, Ironman motivation. But I was on for an hour and a half, so we watched a couple of other videos, and then like one, I was actually really spiteful. There's a UK athlete, and she trained for Olympic swimming all her life, and then got into Ironman, but like always first out of the water job, and I'm like. No, I had to check myself. I was like, because she worked her entire life to try and qualify for the Olympics in swimming, but now the swimming is so easy. Anyone can get on a bike, but no, but it was phenomenal just to watch the training, and you're watching other people training while you're struggling with your training, and it's kind of like that misery loving company. So it's been really good. But the documentary is absolutely phenomenal. So basically, they make an Ironman a team sport for a day.
What do you mean?
So they take the best athletes, right? So they take the two best swimmers. They have two top Iron athletes who are going to compete against each other, who they think are going to break the sub 7 for males and sub 8 for females. And they pit them against each other. So they're very much two Ironmen and Iron women athletes who are racing each other, but they build a team around them. So when they're in the water, they get two people who are phenomenal swimmers only. And they swim in front of them and they draft off them. They have different strategies, yada, yada, yada. They get out of the water. They're then on a bike with professional cyclists in front of them. So they're cycling behind professional cyclists. And it was phenomenal. So it was actually really exciting to watch. If anyone wants to watch it, I don't want to give too much away because it's all that who's going to win type thing.
Yeah.
But like they were doing 55 kilometers an hour for 180 kilometers. And it's amazing when we're talking about watts and sitting on a wheel. I've said it to you many times about sitting on a wheel, but in this documentary, it shows the power of the lead male, and he's doing like 270 watts or 300 watts at one point. Then the guy behind him's doing 270, 250, all the way down to the athlete who's only churning out 150 watts.
And going the same pace.
They're going the same pace.
Phenomenal.
And it is phenomenal. Now, the cyclists who are pulling them along are absolutely goosed by the end of it because it's a stage of a tournament. Now, it's fairly flat. It's on a racetrack as well. Like it's.
I was going to say, where is it based?
It's Austria or Germany. One of them, I think. I was cycling as this was happening as well, so I was in the hurt locker myself. So some of the details are missing, but overall, just watching the race taking place was absolutely phenomenal. So they're getting off the bikes within a minute or two of each other for the run, and you're watching them trying to catch each other over a marathon and then passing each other out. And it's phenomenal. It is. Now, long story short, they do break the world record. Like that's an easy fact. We know it's happened, but it is phenomenal to watch solo athletes because that's what an Ironman is. You can't draft, you can't use anyone, and then give them a team and watch how powerful people are. It's just it's so good. It's absolutely amazing watch. But so that has become my little ritual of on the turbo, and seeing is believing. And when you're watching people suffering and putting in all this effort, then when I don't really want to put in effort, I think back to, no, look, they're doing this every day. Consistency is king, and it is great. So that's the turbo, the cycling elements really, really coming along. Swimming, it's going to be my worst part of it, but I've put a time limit of, if I can get out of the water in an hour and 55 or less, it's a good day.
Do you not find, just going back to the turbo for a second, just out of curiosity, do you not find, so we talked about this before, how you'd struggle sometimes? I struggle big time in this one, listen to a podcast go for a long run. Do you not find distracting listening to, because I'm assuming your turbo sessions, that's when you're going to get your higher intensities and stuff. Do you not find sometimes it's like, oh, I kind of need to kick up the arse for a bit of music or something, or it's just seeing them struggle? It's like, oh, people are struggling beside me. That's like, what's the mindset in that one?
Well, I was actually, the first few documentaries I watched when it was nice and easy, it was good. Her second name is Charles Barkley. She's a UK athlete. But when it got difficult and it got into her second video, I was kind of fed up with her. And it wasn't anything that she was saying. They were actually fantastic vlogs of training and stuff. But she just wasn't the motivation I needed at the point of suffering. So it's just the right things. Whereas then I was watching a race and athletes and abusing each other, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of like, you're going to watch David Goggins for an hour and a half, or you're going to watch Piers Morgan interviewing someone, there's different styles of what. See, I need that little bit more aggression in the difficult parts. I need to see people being aggressive as well in their training and pushing, and then I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. I respond better to that as opposed to the nicey stuff. So that for me is, and again, like there was a day Katie was God love her now, she was doing nothing wrong. I had set up the bike and I told her to stick on whatever she wants. She put on something that was covering the Harry and Meghan scandal.
God,
guy was thrown out. No, I didn't really mind. I was happy.
Yes, you did.
By the time I got into the third interval, I was like, Katie, turn this fucking shit off. Turn on something motivational or something. So she looks up motivational gym. I get a video of a bloke, this shredded guy doing push-ups. He's obviously just a model with some weird music in the background. I was like, Katie, knock this shit off as well. Just turn off the telly. Just turn it fucking off. No, I was completely just gone. Like, I didn't, she was just like, okay. But anyway, I was like, Alexa,
save me.
Play this quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's so in that regard, yeah, like a podcast is not going to do it for me on certain things. But then on easy parts, on easy days, like long easy days, like I was cycling with a guy and we just chatted for the 3 hours. So on days like that, I could absolutely just listen to a podcast. Like I was holding Zone 2 power, so it was moderately comfortable until the last 10k, and I was just like, oh, I'm pretty tired. But yeah, for me then there has to be that element of motivation in what I'm watching or something. I'd find it hard. A lot of people watch series and stuff when they're on them. I just miss too much. It's more
zoned out.
I'm not really listening. Yeah, I'm zoned out, and then I'm getting angrier, and yeah, I just prefer something that's not important in the background, and it's just shouting at you. So yeah, it's that's how I kind of manage it. But yeah, the turbo is king. It's so valuable in terms of training your zones, monitoring your heart rate, and it's hard to explain. If anyone hasn't used it, that constant power, there's no feeling like it. It's just relentless. So it's 15 minutes holding 205 watts, and like it's the minute you even backpedal or something for a second, just give yourself that quick breather, it stops. Like you have to add more power to get back up to where you are. So it's that double enemy. You just need to keep pedaling until you get your break, and then try and stand up or take your drink and stuff. So, but yeah, no, it's all the little things coming together, and then running off the bike feels bizarre for the first 500 meters, and it always does. But for me, what I'm doing is it's supposed to be zone 2 off the bike, but I don't want to get into the habit of running slow as soon as I get off the bike, which is new. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but to me, I want to settle at what I think I'm going to run the marathon at.
Okay, get used to that. Yeah,
because it's only for 20 minutes. So I'm like, zone 2 at 20 minutes. I don't really care. I can practice my zone 2 on the weekend. I was like, if it's 20 minutes of zone 3, zone 4. so be it. I know it's all about the long game, but for me, it's about getting used to turning over the legs at a particular pace as soon as I get over, and it's just for my own head. So yeah, I've set out my stall around a 5:15, 5:25, getting off the bike, and it feels good. It does feel good, and then the heart rate does rise up because I'm after doing 2 hours cycling and then getting in. So I did a 5K the other day after an hour and a half cycle and a heavy cycle. I was like, how the fuck am I going to run a marathon?
Just what you're talking about there, different zones are getting off the bike, and you're kind of going off feel. Do you have that kind of, so you're working with a coach now at the moment, and I suppose in some sessions it's like, okay, this is long bike day, or this is long run day, or did you get up some days and you're like, oh, I really feel like I could do with a long swim day or whatever, maybe not a long swim, but you know what I mean? And bike is programmed. Are you like, could we switch this to this? Or are you like, this the plan, just stick with it, grind it out for a couple of K or whatever it is, obviously not a couple of K, you're in the pool, and get on from there? Or is there like, are you rigid in your programming in terms of has to be swim, has to be bike, has to be run? Or do you have different feelings on what each day is going to be, or how you're like, legs a bit sore today, prefer to be on a bike than run, or you know, that kind of way?
Yeah, see, for me, so last week, I suppose we might as well dive into it. I couldn't stop pooing for a few days there.
We dove into it.
Yeah, it wasn't I don't know, was it just the high intensity level of training? Was it anything but
the diet change?
Yeah, I've eaten a lot cleaner. I've been doing a hell of a lot more training. I don't know, drinking all the lake water could have had something to do with it as well. I don't know. No, it wasn't.
Sea monsters.
Yeah, it could have been the sea monsters attacking me from the inside, but it wasn't bad, as in I hadn't got diarrhea, but
yeah,
like every time I ate, I was like, I need to poop. So it was that was very uncomfortable. I went for an hour zone 2 run, and I had to get Katie to come and collect me, because it wasn't like I was going to go right now. It was like, if I keep running, it's going. So I got Katie to collect me from down the road. I was like, quick, come get me.
We all have those stories.
So, but that led into Saturday. It led into Friday. I was supposed to go for a swim on Friday evening, and I didn't because I was just feeling it. And we had our dinner, and straight away I was feeling it. Into Saturday morning, and I was like, oh my God, it was there again. And then Saturday afternoon, it all kind of trend off, and I was supposed to go and do a run interval session, and I said no. Because it was the first time I hadn't felt the need to hurry to the toilet in a couple of days, and I was like, you know what, just listen to the body on this one and not doing it. So that, I know that's an extreme example of what's going on, but if you're going to be training for these things, might as well talk about them. So yeah, that was just me listening to the body element of things. And then in terms of the training, to answer your separate question, the reason I got it to coach was not to think about it.
Right.
If I have the prescription there, I'm taking the tablet, and the tablet is a swim in the morning, it's this, it's that. If I had the choice, I would never swim. Because I don't like it. I don't like it. If you were to go, Eric, you can choose. You can do a 2.5K swim with drills in the morning, or you can go for a 2.5 hour run. I'm going running.
I'm running. Regardless of weather.
I am 100% going running. And that's just the nature of it. So it's but yeah, it's the idea, like, we have a lot of decisions to make every day. And when you are making the first decision to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go for a 3-hour cycle before you start work, that's a big decision. That's a lot of tiredness. You don't need to be thinking then, what am I going to do tomorrow? Because you're not going to make the choices you need to make. And that's where having a coach is really, really important, or having a plan is really, really important. It's just what's next. Of course, there is flexibility to amend. If you know you have to do a swim and you don't really feel like the interval element, you might get halfway through and go, no, I always start it and as if I'm going to do it. And if I'm just making no progress, that's when I go, do you know what? How about I just take a long break now and then see if I can do a continuous easy swim? Do you know, like that's where you kind of listen and give that feedback back to the coach. So my feedback on one of my swims last week was my left arm is really, really weak. So when I started focusing with the paddles on and just focusing on my catch, so my entry, my catch and my pull, my left shoulder was wrecked, and it shouldn't even be my shoulder, it should be max. So that was telling me two things. It was, one, I was bringing my arm down too long, it was all shoulder. And then, you know, it should be more of a lat movement as you pull through the water.
Okay.
So one, my form was all off, and two, I haven't done that much of it, and I was absolutely exhausted, which is why I probably extended into using more of my shoulder. So there's a lot to be gained from those little things. So yeah, that's why I like following it. And then you can give feedback, and the coach can amend a little bit as well and go. So that's why I've gotten a lot more swims, and I'm noticing a lot more paddle work to try and strengthen the arms, because at the end of the day, it's going to be all arms for 2 hours. Now I'm hoping it gets quicker. I'm hoping it's 1:45. I'm hoping it's 1:30. But if I can say 2 hours, that's under the cutoff. That gets me out of the water and gets me onto the bike. So yeah, it's just an interesting one. And then there is the element as well. People are like, would you not join a triathlon club? And I do agree, if you can get involved in a club, because when you train with people, you do progress a hell of a lot quicker. But unfortunately, the lifestyle, the reason the podcast is late is my work schedule can really interfere with the training as well. And I'd join somewhere and I'd be working most weekends when all the events are on, so I'd never get to be with them anyway.
The half commitment on something like that is just wreck. I know the same. Like, I love to do different like that, but I know I'll be witches every second week or every third week, and if something came up, it might be a month or 2 months before I get back to them. And it's like, I'm not in this. I need to be in this. So you can't, like, that. That's just the different things we do where our schedules kind of work on that one. You have 2 hours swim, 6 hours bike. Are we going sub 13 then?
Sub 13 is the goal. I've set a little goal for myself. I reckon there's a 5-hour marathon there. Yeah, I reckon on a bad day there's a 5-hour marathon there.
But with transitions and all the rest, you're going to need probably a 4:30, 4:40. Is the long transition? I don't know. Is that giving it too much?
Well, it's a long transition out of the water to the bike, but you're talking 5 minutes, and then I'm not going to be dilly-dallying, you know, like, so we talk 5 minutes in both transitions, there's 10 minutes.
So you're a 4:50 now.
Yeah, so let's hope I get out of the water at 1:55, and, you know, let's hope I do a 4:55. You know, like, you're thereabouts. And then on the bike, see how you go, and my cycle could improve. It could be a 5:45 bike, you know. So, but I think I add a little bit competitive edge to my training. I had to set a time, and because I don't trust my swim, because I've done a couple of 80k cycles now, and I'm watching the progression, I'm watching how the heart rate is. Like, my heart rate was 140 for that 30 kilometers an hour. You know, now it's all flat, don't get me wrong, there's long drags, but it's pretty much flat. But it's kind of like a turbo trainer. It's constant power, you have to keep pedaling. There's no respite down a hill as such. So it's yeah, I think sub 13. I think once I see 12:59, I think I'll be happy. To be honest, if I seen 13:01, I'd be happy. I just don't want to be too far around. Just around that 13 mark, I think is perfect.
I suppose you're going to get trained when it leads up to it, but this, like, your longest fitness event to date would be our horrific 5-hour marathon. Am I right in saying that?
I don't know. I think I was longer in Quest Glendalough now, to be honest.
That was a long day at the office.
That was a very long day. I've had a couple of long days at the office.
That was probably closer to 6, maybe.
I've also done the week of Mizzen to Malin.
So you're not too concerned with
days.
Yeah, you're not really too concerned then with the idea of going for 13 hours. You kind of, I suppose, Mizzen to Malin, you've had that in your head now. That going, I got to go all out for 13 hours. That's not an intimidating factor at this stage.
No, that's not the bit that scared me.
What's scaring you?
The swim.
Those first 2 hours out of the 13.
Yeah, and that's what I keep saying. I know I'll suffer. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's not. It's going to be horrific. I'm probably going to fight with myself 40,000 times. But for me, if I get out of that water, I'm already having a good day.
Right.
I've progressed beyond what I think I am possible of doing as a 4K swim. So to me, the swim is the hardest part. If I get out of that water and I'm not totally goosed, then the rest is a good day. The rest is just about endurance. It's about trusting the training. It's about trusting the effort I've put in over the last little while. So, and the cycling is getting better, which is adding confidence. I know I can struggle through a marathon. If it turns out to be a 6 or 7 hour marathon because I'm absolutely goosed, I'm still under the threshold. I'm still a 15-hour Ironman, you know, like, so, but if I can at least put myself in a position to be starting a marathon with the knowledge of that 5 is brilliant, 7, I'd say I'd probably walk 7 hours. You know, like,
yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. 6 kilometers an hour. Am I right?
Yeah, like it wouldn't be too
brisk
bad.
Walk.
Yeah, brisk walk, shuffle, you know, the Ironman shuffle. But that is what I would like to do. So the new bike, everything is coming. We have a couple of visitors coming onto the podcast over the next couple of weeks, kind of talk about bike fittings.
Brilliant.
I'll talk about my new bike. I'll talk about my latest purchases in terms of helmets and why we bought this helmet and why we bought this shoe and computers and watts and everything. So we'll keep diving into it, and we'll see what it brings. But overall, it's scary, and I suppose that's ultimately, if something doesn't scare you, you're not doing the right thing. And you've said that a couple of times with a few events, but the swim element is the scariest part, and I have to wise up and start swimming a bit more. Now, I say that I'm still swimming 2-3 times a week, but you know, it's not coming as natural to me, I suppose, is the scary part. But it will get there. I've done 4 Olympics in 4 weeks before. My swim time came all the way down, but I was doing a hell of a lot more swim training, and it was only for 1.5 kilometers. It wasn't for 4K. So, we'll see how she goes.
Just for people out there are curious, listen there, because we've talked before about marathons, and one of the stats before I read in the marathon, before doing my first one, so it mightn't be too accurate now, was the average for guys doing the marathon was 4:05, and the average for females 4:35. That could change. Just as you're talking now, I was looking just to see, based off these numbers of average time stuff. I know a lot comes into this, so like age, sex, segments, like for example, some are a lot more hittier than others. Just out of curiosity, the average Ironman time is 12 hours and 35 minutes, and that breaks down the segments of the 2.4 mile swim being a 1:16, a 112 mile bike being a 6:25. And the run being a 4:54. So it's mad how you're spot on the run. You said 4:55 earlier. And obviously you talked before, you just said like this podcast about how you're going to struggle to swim. So you know that's down, and you're going to be above average in the bike, which I truly believe, because I know Doreen Kerry wasn't a competitive cycle, but I was halfway up Miles Gap and you were down the back with everyone else. And you got to the top a good bit before I did, because I don't know what the equivalent does is of putting the foot down the bike, but that is exactly what you did. And on up he went, like, so it's interesting to see how you are compared to averages. That's based on 41,000 finishers over 25 different Ironmans. So it's, you know, that's going to change up and down different. That's not to say it's the same for your average in Portugal. That could be different, but it depends on how hilly
you wouldn't be saying there the averages for Lanzarote, for example. You know, that's very much an animal on its own in terms of the average times. But on average, I think that's where I want to be. I want to be bang average rather than bang useless. So,
there's a reason I had the 4 hour goal for the marathon. It's like, 4:05 is the average, just a little bit above it.
No, and that is true. Like, and not only that, like the power I'm holding now, I'm 94 kilos, so still plus 90. The weight is going to come down. I'm hoping to shed off those 6 kilos by race day. So
88.
So 88 will be the racing weight, hopefully. So that will mean less weight on the bike. That will mean less weight on the knees and the legs for the marathon. So I'm hoping if I can hold that bang average now, as the weight drops off, we'll just be that 4 hour instead of the 4:05, if that makes sense. And that's the ultimate plan. And then the plan will only last probably the first 10 minutes, and then it's just slog it out from there, to be honest. And nutrition will come into it. So there's a hell of a lot that goes into this, and a whole new world I'm exploring. But as you said, like there's over 40,000 athletes just in that study. Like this isn't new. People are doing these for fun. Unfortunately, I know too many people that do it for fun. So I feel very average, even though I'm doing something that people think I'm crazy for doing.
Agreed.
This podcast doesn't help because I feel very average for doing something that people do very well. But yeah, it is daunting. It is daunting. But it takes a lot of effort. You need a hell of a lot of support as well. I'm very lucky that I'm allowed, and I say that I'm allowed to prioritize the trainings, and it works around, everything is working kind of around me at the minute, which is I'm grateful for, and it's something you need to consider when taking on this. That's why I don't know if Ironman is going to be for me permanently. Definitely halves. Like I'd get up in the morning and I'd chance a half Ironman, easy peasy. Just even mentally having what I'm trying to achieve, I'm like, I could show up tomorrow and give that a go. And I think that's something I could be in.
Do you not think, and obviously I have no experience in this with Ironmans, but do you think that there's a base that could be there? For example, if we had this conversation, 5 years ago, you'd be like, the time and effort and the commitment it takes to do a full marathon. I know Ironman's a lot more, don't get me wrong, but it's still 16 weeks. It's still 4 or 5 days a week, and it's all the rest, and it takes a lot. Whereas you've already shown in this podcast, you can do a 4-week training plan, and all of a sudden you're doing a marathon, albeit not your best time, but still able to do it and get out there. Do you think that could be, you could build a base for the Ironman, or if you don't swim for a certain while, it's just all going to go, and you feel like you're going to start from scratch, and it's just too much to build back up? Or is it too early to tell you?
It's not necessarily the quant. Yeah, okay. So when we're training for a marathon, the biggest day of the week is 2.5 hours long. Okay.
What's your biggest day now? Or what's going to be your biggest day?
Let me have a look at tomorrow.
And this is still like 14 weeks or so out from your Ironman.
So here's the expectation for tomorrow. And bear in mind, I'm on a 12-hour duty and all that. So this is part of the fun of balancing life with Ironman training. So tomorrow's expectation is what day is it tomorrow? Tuesday. Swim in the morning, 8 by 300 meters, 6 out of 10 effort, followed by 5 by 50 meters and a 200 meter cool down. So you're looking at nearly a 3K swim in the morning.
Ugh.
Then I have to get onto the turbo trainer, and I'm on the turbo trainer for about an hour and 30 minutes. And then I have to do intervals that night, 3 by 400s with a walk, and then 4 by 1K runs at the top of zone 4, and then a 10-minute recovery. So
take back everything I said there. I clearly don't know shit about Ironman training. So I humbly apologize for that one. That was one of the most stupid questions I've asked in this podcast.
But look, it's this is the thing about the time commitment. So today I only have a swim. I only have an hour and a half, but tomorrow is a heavy day. Heavy day, yeah. So it's not every day like that. Don't get me wrong. It's not. I'm not trying to put people off, but you have to understand I'm about to do that for 13 hours. So a 3.5, 4 hour day is a heavy day in the build up for a 13-hour day. So that's just something to consider in terms of time. It's a hell of a lot of time. And it's a big commitment. So that's why I'm saying a half Ironman is half that effort. So you can see why it's already more appealing.
Oh, no, I'm going to have to do 30 minutes of pull-ups and bicep curls. I'm more comfortable doing that right now. We better get this podcast out there to the people there. Thank you very much for that. That's insane. Rest up before tomorrow. I hope you're getting some rest in before tomorrow, because that sounds like an insane 3 different training sessions. It's pretty cool hearing the insight. I'm almost jealous. Apart from the swim, I'm almost jealous about your journey right now and building up towards the Ironman. It's going to be a hell of a day in Portugal. Anything else to add before we wrap up this episode of the podcast?
No, that's it. And thanks for everyone who reached out after the marathon post. So we know a hell of a lot of people have taken on board what we're saying. A hell of a lot of people have bought heart rate monitors over the last week.
I was even more sold in the heart rate thing. I'm like, man, I've had a Herc beside me for the last 3.5 years of this podcast, and I haven't been going, because we even mentioned it in the post, like even when I say slow run, I find it's very hard to stick with zone 2, and I will transition. I will keep a conversational pace, but I will be like, if you look at my zone or the Garmin or Strava afterwards, I will mostly be in a zone 3 on that. It's just that getting that extra slow, but then you're slower for the first couple of weeks, and then it's like, fuck, he got ahead of you. How do you manage that?
So I'm gonna say something here. If you stick to a zone 2 program, I think you'll break the sub 25K. That's it. I'm gonna let you get injury free and leave that one settle.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in a couple of weeks. And on that note, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. That's it for myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.